Most men live their lives chasing shadows. They spend decades pursuing love, validation, and happiness through women, convinced that if they try hard enough, give enough, or sacrifice enough, they'll finally be rewarded. But time and time again, those same men find themselves heartbroken, betrayed, or trapped in lives of quiet desperation. It feels personal when it happens. It feels like a cruel twist of fate. Why her? Why me? Why now? But nearly 200 years ago, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer warned men that this isn't some random misfortune. It's not an accident. It's not even unique. It's nature, and it's ruthless. Schopenhauer exposed truths so dark, so brutally honest, that most men today still refuse to accept them. They cling to romantic illusions, Hollywood scripts, and social conditioning, ignoring the evidence of their own lives. But by the time you finish this, you'll see the game for what it really is. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Schopenhauer didn't believe in fairy tales. He stripped love, romance, and desire of their poetic disguises. He saw them not as divine bonds or soul-level connections, but as carefully engineered tricks of biology, mechanisms of survival designed not to make you happy, but to make sure the species reproduces. Here's the shocking truth. That electric spark you feel when you see a woman you just know is the one, that obsessive desire that takes over your thoughts and convinces you you'd risk it all for her, that isn't your heart. That isn't destiny. It's a calculation. Your brain is silently measuring fertility, genetic compatibility, and survival advantages. And women are doing the same, just with different criteria. Where men often fixate on youth and beauty as signals of fertility, women instinctively gravitate toward men with status, strength, and resources, signals of security and survival. Schopenhauer wrote, "Love is the ultimate goal of almost all human effort. It is more important than anything else in life." But he didn't mean this in the romantic way society teaches us. He meant it as a trap, a drug, a fleeting high that burns brightly just long enough to trick you into doing nature's bidding. Think about it. How many men have lost fortunes, reputations, even their very lives in the pursuit of a woman who later discarded them without hesitation? How many marriages dissolve into bitterness and financial ruin once the passion fades? That isn't coincidence. It's design. Women don't choose based on fairness, loyalty, or selfless devotion. They select based on an ancient, unconscious program written into their biology. And that program is merciless. A man's love may be infinite, but if he lacks strength, status, or security, it won't matter. Schopenhauer saw this with terrifying clarity. He wrote that women are rarely guided by reason and are instead governed by instinct and emotion. This wasn't hatred, it was observation. And the proof is everywhere. Look at dating apps where 80% of women chase the top 10 to 20% of men. Look at divorce courts where men's devotion and sacrifice are rewarded with financial devastation. Look at history where kings lost kingdoms for mistresses who betrayed them. The pattern is clear. The biology never changes. Most men make the fatal mistake of believing love is mutual, that if they just try harder, sacrifice more, prove their worth, eventually it will be enough. But Schopenhauer warned, to be loved, one must not be just, but clever. Women don't fall for niceness. They don't fall for service. They fall for strength, whether physical, social, financial, or psychological. And this is why the so-called good guy so often finishes last, not because he's unworthy, but because he misunderstands the rules of the game. The good guy thinks love is earned through devotion. The reality is, women are instinctively drawn to men who don't need to serve. Have you noticed how quickly women lose interest once they've secured the man's commitment? How the chase reverses, and suddenly the man is the one chasing, begging, clinging. Schopenhauer called this the tragedy of possession. The thrill isn't in having, it's in conquering. Once the conquest is complete, biology shifts its focus, and the man who clings, who centers his world around her, becomes invisible in her eyes. But here's where men often go wrong. They take this truth and twist it into bitterness. They begin to hate women, to resent them, to rage against what they see as betrayal. But Schopenhauer didn't preach hatred, he preached clarity. He wanted men to stop living in illusion, to stop blaming, to start strategizing. The truth is this: women aren't villains. They're simply following the script written by nature itself. And once a man understands that, he can stop being a victim of the game and start mastering it. And this is only the beginning, because the next truth Schopenhauer revealed is even darker. It explains why modern men are being outplayed at every level and how to flip the script before it's too late. Here's the reality most men never want to hear. The rules of attraction are not fair. They are not logical, and they certainly aren't in your favor. While modern society preaches equality, nature laughs. Biology doesn't care about slogans, hashtags, or political correctness. It has one law: survival through reproduction. And in that law, women hold the upper hand. Why? Because nature designed them to be the selectors. From the moment puberty begins, a woman's value in the sexual marketplace peaks almost instantly. Youth, beauty, and fertility are her currency, and she instinctively knows how to spend it. Meanwhile, a man's value must be earned, built, and proven over years of grinding, struggling, and competing.
Schopenhauer put it bluntly: women are suited to be the nurses and teachers of our childhood by the very fact that they themselves are childish, frivolous, and short-sighted. He wasn't throwing insults, he was stating an evolutionary fact. Women, by their very nature, are optimized for the early phases of life, raising children, bonding emotionally, living in the present. Men, on the other hand, are forged in struggle. A man's worth is not given, it's constructed. And here lies the brutal imbalance. A woman can walk into a room at 20 years old, and by sheer appearance alone, she holds the attention of men. A man at 20 walks into the same room, and no one cares. His value is invisible, because it doesn't exist yet. He has to build it, through status, through strength, through success. This is why men are pressured to overwork, to outcompete, to push themselves beyond exhaustion. Society demands it, biology demands it, and women reward it. But here's the twist Schopenhauer revealed: even when men succeed, the game is still stacked against them, because no matter how much you give, no matter how much you prove, the very nature of female attraction ensures it's always conditional. A man's devotion is never enough on its own. His loyalty is never enough. His love is never enough. The moment he loses his edge, the moment he stagnates, weakens, or falls behind, her instinct tells her to look elsewhere. Not because she's evil, but because nature wired her to seek the best mate available. And if you're not climbing, if you're not leading, if you're not commanding respect, you're falling. Think about the stories you hear every day. The man who sacrificed everything for his family only to be abandoned when his wife fell out of love. The man who worked himself into an early grave only to find his devotion bought him resentment instead of loyalty. The man who thought stability was enough, only to be left the moment a higher status competitor appeared. Schopenhauer saw this centuries ago. He warned that women, by instinct, are drawn not to fairness or logic, but to strength and dominance. He wrote, "They are big children all their lives. not as an insult, but as a recognition of how they approach life, living in the present, seeking pleasure, following instinct rather than reason. And here's where modern society makes the problem worse, because women today aren't just embracing their natural advantage, they're weaponizing it. Social media has turned attention into currency. Validation is now a global marketplace, and the average man is the unpaid laborer fueling it. He likes her photos, he comments on her selfies, he sends her money, gifts, and endless validation. And what does he get in return? Nothing. At best, a scrap of attention. At worst, complete indifference. Meanwhile, the top-tier men, the ones with status, money, looks, or influence, enjoy her time, her loyalty, her intimacy. The rest, they orbit, they wait, they compete for a chance that never comes. Schopenhauer anticipated this dynamic long before smartphones and Instagram. He observed that women, by nature, are not capable of the same kind of unconditional love men hope for. Female love is tied to utility. It's transactional, bound to what a man provides. And here's the dark truth. The moment you stop providing, the moment you stop winning, the moment you stop being useful to her, that love evaporates. Not slowly, not gently, instantly. Most men can't handle this. They tell themselves lies. She loves me for who I am. She'll stay no matter what happens. She values my loyalty. But history proves otherwise. And Schopenhauer ripped away the mask long before the modern world forced men to see it. He divided men into two categories: those who serve and those who are served. The beta male exhausts himself trying to prove his worth. He sacrifices, gives, and bends, believing service will earn him loyalty. The alpha male does the opposite. He commands respect by existing as strength itself. He doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he doesn't serve. And the result? One is tolerated, the other is desired over. One is pitied, the other is obsessed over. This pattern hasn't changed in centuries, and it never will, because biology doesn't change. So ask yourself, which one are you? The man begging for loyalty, or the man who inspires it effortlessly? The truth is, most men today have already chosen their role. They're locked in the cage of service, desperately hoping the bars will one day turn into a throne. But that will never happen. And if you don't believe it yet, the next truth Schopenhauer revealed will shatter the last illusions most men still cling to. Because it's not just about attraction, it's about power. Here's the truth most men never see until it's too late. The greatest weapon women possess isn't beauty. It isn't sex. It isn't even youth. It's emotional influence. While men battle with fists, competition, and logic, women wage war on a different front. They don't win by confrontation. They win by shaping perception. Schopenhauer called it an instinctive craftiness, an innate talent for deception. He wasn't accusing women of evil. He was pointing out that in a world where women lacked the physical strength to survive through force, evolution gave them something far more dangerous: the ability to bend male psychology to their will. Think about this. When a man wants something, he demands it. When a woman wants something, she often makes you believe it was your idea all along. That's not coincidence, that's adaptation.
Schopenhauer observed that women live more in the present than men. They're not weighed down by long-term logic or abstract philosophy. Instead, they're finely attuned to the immediate: tone shifts, micro-expressions, subtle changes in behavior. A man thinks he's having a conversation. A woman is reading 100 signals at once, analyzing, interpreting, adjusting. And this is why most men lose control in their relationships before they even realize there was a battle. From the first date to the divorce papers, women guide interactions through subtle, invisible tests. Tests most men fail without even knowing they were being tested. The compliance test. How quickly will you rearrange your schedule for her? The frame test. Will you stand your ground or cave to her emotions? The investment test. Will you chase harder than she does, proving she holds the leverage? Most men fail every single one. They believe they're being kind, thoughtful, romantic, but in her eyes, they're proving weakness. They're proving she holds power. Schopenhauer saw this as the tyranny of the weak. Women, by leveraging vulnerability, emotion, and perception, can control stronger adversaries without lifting a finger. Think about how this plays out. A woman cries to avoid accountability. She withholds affection to train compliance. She flirts with others not because she's leaving, but to test your confidence. To the untrained man, these are random acts of cruelty. To Schopenhauer, they're survival tactics. And here's the brutal part. It works. Because most men are blind to it. They think they're in control. They think they're leading. But from the very beginning, they're being guided, tested, and shaped by forces they don't understand. This is why so many men wake up one day in a life they never wanted, married to a woman who no longer respects them, paying for children who barely know them, crushed under the weight of financial and emotional obligations they never consciously chose. How did it happen? Slowly, subtly, invisibly. Schopenhauer understood this better than most modern psychologists. He saw that women don't challenge men directly because they don't have to. They bend reality around them. They manipulate without appearing to manipulate. And here's the twist most men can't swallow. It isn't malicious, it's instinct. The woman who can't read emotions, who can't test boundaries, who can't subtly guide interactions, she doesn't pass on her genes. The women who survived, who thrived, who shaped history, were the ones who mastered emotional strategy. And in the modern world, this strategy is everywhere. It's in the way women present themselves on social media. It's in the way they test men's confidence during conversations. It's in the way they withhold attention to increase desire. Most men think they're chasing love. In reality, they're running through a maze designed to test whether they're strong enough to lead. And here's the paradox. The more you chase, the weaker you look. The more you bend, the less she respects you. The moment you make her your purpose, you lose her. This explains why women are most drawn to men who don't need them, why they obsess over the emotionally unavailable, why they chase men who seem untouchable, even if those men treat them poorly. It's not that women want to be mistreated. It's that, biologically, they're wired to pursue the man whose value doesn't depend on them, the man who could walk away at any moment. Neediness destroys value faster than anything else. And here's where most men fail. They enter every interaction already at a disadvantage. They believe they're negotiating from a place of strength, but in reality, they've already surrendered by making her validation their goal. Schopenhauer saw this dynamic with terrifying clarity. He called it out centuries before it became obvious in the age of dating apps, Instagram, and modern feminism. Women, he wrote, are instinctively crafty and naturally deceptive, not because they're evil, but because it was the only way to survive in a world dominated by male strength. And unless a man understands this, unless he sees the invisible strings being pulled, he will always be a puppet in the game. But here's the hope Schopenhauer offered. Once you see the strings, they lose their power. Once you understand that her nature is instinct, not malice, you stop taking it personally. You stop begging for loyalty. You stop bending your life around her moods. You start inspiring loyalty instead of demanding it. Because the truth is, the most dangerous lies aren't the ones women tell men. They're the ones men tell themselves. And in the next revelation, Schopenhauer takes the knife even deeper. Because the real battle isn't between men and women. It isn't about her at all. It's about you. And until you face that truth, you'll never be free. Schopenhauer's most devastating revelation wasn't just about women. It was about men. It was about you. After exposing the brutal realities of attraction, manipulation, and power dynamics, he delivered a truth most men will never accept. The real chains holding you back aren't hers, they're yours. Men destroy themselves not because of what women are, but because of what men believe about them. The illusions, the fantasies, the lies we tell ourselves, that love is eternal, that devotion is enough, that sacrifice guarantees loyalty. Schopenhauer ripped that all away. He wrote, "The happiness we receive from ourselves is greater than that which we obtain from our surroundings. The ultimate liberation is this: happiness, purpose, and fulfillment cannot come from women. They must come from within. The men who thrive aren't the ones who conquer women. They're the ones who conquer themselves." History proves this. The men who shaped the world, artists, warriors, inventors, philosophers, weren't distracted by endless chasing. They weren't consumed by validation. They were consumed by something greater, their purpose. And here lies the final red pill. The path isn't about hating women. It's not about defeating them. It's about transcending the game entirely. Because once you stop making women the center of your life, everything changes. The validation you once begged for starts coming to you. The loyalty you once demanded begins to appear naturally. The respect you once dreamed of becomes reality. Why? Because you've stopped orbiting. You've become the sun. Schopenhauer laid out the foundation for unshakable masculinity, pillars every man must build if he wants freedom. 1. Economic sovereignty. Money isn't just currency, it's freedom. Schopenhauer warned, money is human happiness in the abstract. The man who controls his finances controls his fate. He is never trapped by necessity, never bent by desperation. 2. Philosophical depth. Most men live on autopilot, following scripts they never wrote. The exceptional man questions. He reads. He debates. He cuts through the illusion society feeds him. He refuses to be a slave to dogma. 3. Physical mastery. The body isn't just an ornament, it's the vessel of willpower. Weakness in the body breeds weakness in the mind. Strength, discipline, and resilience create a foundation for everything else. When a man builds these 3 pillars, something extraordinary happens. He no longer chases. He no longer begs. He no longer fears. He becomes the prize. And here's where Schopenhauer's philosophy becomes revolutionary. He wrote, "The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy." This isn't despair, it's armor. It means stop chasing fantasies, stop expecting fairy tales, stop demanding happiness from the outside world. Build it within yourself. Because the man who stops expecting, who stops begging, who stops clinging, he suddenly finds freedom. He finds peace. And ironically, that's when everything he once desired begins to appear naturally. Women are drawn to strength, to independence, to men who don't need them. Society respects men who set their own standards. The world bends to those who refuse to be bent. The tragedy is that most men will never see this. They will spend their lives chained to illusions, forfeiting 3/4 of themselves just to be like other people. But you don't have to. Schopenhauer's ultimate lesson is this: life isn't about chasing love, validation, or fairness. It's about building yourself into something so powerful, so unshakable, that nothing outside of you can enslave you. The battle between men and women isn't personal, it's biology. The war isn't with her, it's with yourself. And the prize isn't her approval, it's your freedom. So you have a choice. You can keep running in circles, chasing illusions, and waiting for loyalty that will never come. Or you can wake up. You can build yourself. You can step into the truth that most men fear, but the strongest men embrace. The truth that Schopenhauer saw centuries ago: happiness doesn't come from her, it comes from you. And the moment you accept that is the moment your real life begins.